I recently discovered my dead ex's affair partner has been stalking my son, and I can't stop thinking about it. So a bit of backstory here. About 5 years ago, when I was 5 months pregnant, I found out my then boyfriend Ethan was cheating on me with my best friend Jenna. And not just a one-time thing either. They'd been sneaking around for months while I was dealing with morning sickness and preparing for our baby. I immediately ended both relationships and moved in with my grandma. Fast forward, my son Noah is now 4 and has had asthma since he was an infant. It requires pretty careful medication management and monitoring. During these past 4 years, Ethan had only supervised visitation with Noah. I was firm about boundaries after what happened. Meanwhile, Ethan and Jenna stayed together after I left, and Jenna constantly referred to herself as Noah's bonus mommy on social media. 3 weeks ago, Ethan died unexpectedly in a workplace accident. It's been complicated emotionally. Since the funeral, Jenna has been obsessively trying to maintain contact with Noah, claiming she deserves a relationship with him. Yesterday, things reached a breaking point. I was preparing Noah's afternoon medication when my phone rang for like the 6th time that day from another number. Usually I ignore these calls, but this one kept calling back, so I reluctantly answered. It was Jenna, begging to see our little man, and saying Noah needs her now that his daddy is gone. I told her, as calmly as I could manage, that Noah has never had a relationship with her and never will. She immediately switched tactics and claimed Ethan wanted her to be part of Noah's life if anything happened to him. I asked if she had any legal documentation of this supposed wish, and there was this stunned silence before she started crying even harder. She revealed she was sitting in her car down the street from my grandma's house to see Noah. I looked out the window, and sure enough, there was her red car parked near the corner. The worst part is, I realized this wasn't the first time I've noticed that car in our neighborhood. When I threatened to call the police for stalking, she became hysterical, screaming that I'm stealing the last piece of Ethan she has left and that she has rights to see Noah. I ended the call as my grandma came into the kitchen while Noah was napping in the next room. After explaining the situation to my grandma, I blocked the new number, bringing the total to 11 blocked numbers in just under 3 weeks since Ethan's funeral. 11! Who even has access to that many different phone numbers? Edit. Forgot to mention that I checked my email after blocking her number and discovered Jenna had created yet another fake account to contact me. I could tell it was her from the writing style and the fact that the email account was created yesterday. This woman is relentless. Later that evening, I received a message from Jenna's sister calling me heartless for keeping Jenna from Noah when she's just grieving the love of her life, and suggesting that I'm using Noah to punish Jenna for the past. This couldn't be further from the truth. I'm just trying to protect my son from someone who has zero actual connection to him besides sleeping with his dad. I've spent the last 5 years carefully creating stability for Noah, making sure his medical needs are met, and building a peaceful life. Now, this woman who helped destroy my relationship during my pregnancy thinks she has some claim to my child? I've never seen Noah so anxious. He picked up on the tension yesterday and had trouble with his breathing all evening. This morning, I started documenting everything. Screenshots of all contact attempts, notes about the car sightings, everything. I'm not sure what my next step should be. A restraining order? Talking to a lawyer? Moving to a different neighborhood? My grandma suggested staying with her sister in another town for a few days just to give Noah some peace, and I'm seriously considering it. The most frustrating part is that some mutual friends are actually taking Jenna's side, saying I should let her grieve by seeing Noah. But he's my son, not hers. She was never in his life by my choice, and the fact that she dated Ethan doesn't give her any rights to Noah. Am I overreacting about this situation? I just don't know how to handle this woman who seems determined to insert herself into our lives no matter what. Thanks for reading this far. If you did, any advice would be greatly appreciated. Now, for the first update. First of all, you guys, I can't believe how many of you responded to my post about Jenna stalking my son. I promised I'd update when things developed, and unfortunately, they definitely have. It's been 2 weeks since my last post, and things have gone from bad to worse with the whole Jenna situation. I've been following the advice many of you gave about documenting everything and reached out to a family lawyer last week. The consultation wasn't as reassuring as I'd hoped. She explained that while getting a restraining order might be possible based on the stalking, actually enforcing it could be complicated without more explicit threats from Jenna. Still, we started the paperwork process just to get things moving. My grandma and I installed security cameras around the house. I've been keeping a detailed log of every contact attempt. We're up to 16 blocked numbers now, and Jenna created 3 more fake email accounts since my last post. The worst development happened 3 days ago when she showed up at Noah's preschool claiming she was there to pick him up for a doctor's appointment. In somewhat surprising news, Ethan's parents reached out to me. They've never been very involved in Noah's life. They live about an hour away, and Ethan had apparently downplayed his responsibilities as a father to them. His mom, Lauren, asked if they could start seeing Noah occasionally. I was hesitant at first, but she specifically mentioned they do not support Jenna's attempts to see Noah, which immediately made me more open to the idea. After a few phone conversations, I agreed to meet Lauren at the local park so she could see Noah in a neutral setting. I figured the park would be safe. Noah was playing on the smaller playground area when Lauren arrived. She seemed nervous but genuine as she sat down on my bench, leaving a respectful distance between us. She immediately apologized for not being more involved in Noah's life before, explaining that Ethan had minimized his responsibilities as a father to them. She said they didn't even know Noah had asthma until after Ethan's funeral when one of his coworkers mentioned it. She seemed truly remorseful and kept watching Noah. We were about 15 minutes into our conversation when I noticed a woman entering the park wearing large sunglasses and a hat pulled low. I recognized Jenna immediately. Lauren followed my gaze and was surprised to see Jenna too. Instead of leaving when she realized we'd spotted her, Jenna started walking toward us. She took off her sunglasses and called out, "Mom," to Lauren. She stood there expectantly, trying to join our discussion. Lauren immediately stood up, positioning herself between Jenna and the playground where Noah was playing. Her voice was quiet but firm when she said, "Jenna, you need to leave, now." That's when Jenna's demeanor changed. She started sobbing. She shouted that she has a right to see Ethan's son, and then pointed at me and said I've been more of a mother to that boy than she has. Other parents were staring now. I rushed over to Noah, who had noticed the commotion and looked scared. I grabbed his inhaler from my bag and got him settled while trying to keep an eye on the situation unfolding. Lauren was still standing firm, telling Jenna in no uncertain terms that she needed to leave before we called security. Jenna finally stormed off after realizing the scene she was creating wasn't gaining her any sympathy, but not before yelling that this isn't over. After the park disaster, Lauren drove us home. She apologized repeatedly on the way, revealing that Jenna has been pressuring Ethan's entire family to support her rights to see Noah. Apparently, she's even threatened to contest Ethan's will if they don't back her up. That evening was another nightmare. My phone blew up with calls from mutual friends saying Jenna has been spreading this narrative that I denied Noah the chance to say goodbye to his father and that I'm now keeping him from his stepmother. My grandma is worried about the effect all this stress might have on Noah's asthma. She suggested we stay with her sister in another town about 45 minutes away for a few days to give Noah some peace. I work remotely, so it wouldn't affect my job, and Noah could use the break from all this tension. Before we left town, I contacted my lawyer again with details of the park incident. This time, she was much more confident that we have enough evidence to file for a restraining order. I've started researching playgrounds and activities in my great-aunt's neighborhood so Noah can still have fun while we're there. We're packing his favorite stuffed dinosaur, his special blanket, and of course, all his medications and his nebulizer. The most frustrating part of all this is that some people in our social circle are still taking her side. Her sister posted this long, dramatic thing on Facebook about how grief makes people do desperate things, and how I'm being cruel by not letting Jenna maintain her connection to Ethan through his son. I'm mentally preparing myself for a long battle ahead, especially now that I've seen how far Jenna is willing to go to insert herself into our lives. I'll update again when I know more about the restraining order process or if anything significant happens during our stay at my great-aunt's. Now for the second update. Update 2. Since so many of you asked for an update after my post about Jenna showing up at the park with Ethan's mom, here it is. Sorry for the delay. It's been a wild few weeks. I really didn't think things could get more insane than they already were. But I guess when it comes to Jenna, I should never underestimate how far she'll go. Link to original post and first update for those who missed it. Mods locked my last post after it hit the front page, but thankfully they approved this update. It's been 3 weeks since the park incident, and I've been staying at my great-aunt's place, like I mentioned in my last update. The change of scenery has been good for Noah, though he's still been having nightmares about the crying lady, which breaks my heart. His asthma has definitely been worse with all this stress. We've had to adjust his medication and use his rescue inhaler more frequently than usual. I did manage to get a temporary restraining order against Jenna. The hearing for a permanent one is still pending, but at least this gives us some legal protection in the meantime. My lawyer said the documentation I've been keeping, plus the park incident, were enough to convince the judge. The paperwork says Jenna has to stay at least 100 yards away from both Noah and me, as well as our home and his preschool. A quick note, many commenters pointed out that I should notify Noah's preschool about the restraining order and give them a photo of Jenna. I did exactly that. They've been amazing about it and have updated their security procedures. They now have a copy of the restraining order on file, and every staff member knows what Jenna looks like. I've returned to work after taking some time off. My boss was surprisingly understanding given the circumstances. Working remotely has been a lifesaver through all this. I can't imagine having to leave Noah with someone else right now when he's already so anxious. Ethan's parents have actually been incredible through all this. They've been visiting Noah on weekends, taking things slow and being super respectful of boundaries. Lauren, Ethan's mom, brought some photos of Ethan as a kid last weekend, and Noah was fascinated to see how much he looks like his dad. It was bittersweet, but healing in a way. In somewhat positive news, I received notification that Ethan had a small life insurance policy through his employer that named Noah as the beneficiary. It's not a huge amount, but it will be placed in a trust for his education. At least that's one thing I don't have to worry about so much now. Everything was actually feeling somewhat stable until yesterday. I was working from my grandma's dining room while Noah was taking his afternoon nap upstairs when the doorbell started ringing repeatedly, followed by aggressive knocking. I checked the security camera feed, thank God for those cameras, and saw Jenna standing on the porch with her sister. Both looked upset, and Jenna was clutching what appeared to be legal documents. I felt physically ill seeing her there, violating the restraining order so blatantly. I used the doorbell speaker to tell her she needed to leave immediately or I'd call the police. I reminded her about the restraining order, hoping she'd just go away without making things worse. Instead, her sister stepped forward and tried to play good cop by calmly explaining they filed a petition for third-party visitation rights based on Jenna's supposed established relationship with Noah during the years she was with Ethan. I told them firmly that no such relationship exists. Noah has literally met Jenna maybe 3 times in his entire life, always in group settings. That's when Jenna shoved several printed photos toward the camera, showing her holding Noah as a baby. I have never seen these pictures before. I never authorized these visits or photos. The only explanation is that Ethan must have brought Noah around her without my knowledge during some of his supervised visits when Noah was an infant. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely dial my phone to call both the police and my lawyer. While we waited, Jenna kept switching between sobbing and angrily demanding to be let in, claiming the restraining order doesn't count because this was about Noah's welfare. Then her sister tried a different approach, offering financial help for Noah's medical needs and suggesting that fighting this in court would be expensive and stressful for everyone, especially Noah. It was manipulative and only confirmed for me that these people need to be kept far away from my son. To make matters worse, the commotion woke Noah up from his nap. I could hear him upstairs coughing heavily, which happens when he gets upset or anxious. I had to run up to give him his rescue inhaler while still on the phone with 911, all while these 2 lunatics continued banging on my door. The police arrived about 10 minutes later and thankfully took it seriously. They escorted Jenna and her sister away, warning them about violating the restraining order. One officer stayed behind to take my statement while I tried to calm Noah down. The poor kid was so confused and scared. After they left, my lawyer called back confirming that Jenna had indeed filed a petition for third-party visitation rights. The good news is that she assured me the case has very little merit without evidence of an existing relationship with Noah. We have a court date set for next month. That evening, I received texts from 3 different mutual friends telling me Jenna has been contacting everyone who might have ever seen her with Noah, trying to collect old photos and stories to create evidence of a relationship that never existed. She's apparently spinning this narrative that she was a significant part of Noah's life and that I'm keeping them apart. Edit 7:45 p.m. Just got off the phone with Lauren, Ethan's mom. She told me something that makes this whole situation even more disturbing. Apparently, Jenna has always had an unhealthy obsession with motherhood. When she first started dating Ethan, she would constantly talk about having babies with him, even though they'd only been together for a few weeks. Lauren said Jenna even tried to convince Ethan to seek full custody of Noah after he was born, telling him I was keeping his son from him, which was never true. I always facilitated visits despite everything that happened. I'm completely exhausted and feel so violated. Looking at those photos of her holding my baby without my knowledge or consent makes me feel physically sick. The idea that Ethan betrayed my trust by bringing Noah around her is something I'm still trying to process. Not that I should be surprised, given his history of dishonesty, but still. My grandmother suggested we consider moving permanently. I've been resistant because this is our home, and I don't want Jenna to essentially force us out. But I'm starting to think she might be right. Noah deserves to grow up somewhere peaceful, not in this constant state of stress and fear. The hardest part is explaining all this to a 4-year-old in a way he can understand. He knows something is wrong, but doesn't understand why these strangers keep upsetting mommy or why we had to leave our house. I'm trying to shield him from as much as possible while still being honest in age-appropriate ways. I'm still not sure what my next steps should be beyond the legal proceedings, but reading your supportive comments has been keeping me sane through all this. Any advice on dealing with the court case or helping Noah feel secure would be so appreciated right now. Now for the final update. Final update on the Jenna stalking nightmare. Can't believe I'm finally writing this. Thank you to everyone who followed this insane journey and offered advice. Your support literally saved my son and me. It's been 2 months since my last update when Jenna showed up at my grandma's house with those fake family photos. A lot has happened since then, both good and terrifying, so I'll try to catch you all up without writing a novel. First, the good news. The judge dismissed Jenna's petition for third-party visitation rights. Her entire case fell apart in court. No surprise there. The judge actually seemed irritated that court resources were being wasted on such a baseless claim. When Jenna's lawyer tried arguing about her established relationship with Noah, I presented evidence that Noah had only met her 3 times in supervised settings before Ethan died. The photos she had were from those few meetings, plus some that Ethan must have taken during his supervised visits without my knowledge. Still mad about that. The judge granted me a permanent restraining order against Jenna. It prohibits any contact with Noah or me and requires her to stay at least 500 feet away from our home, Noah's school, and my workplace. I felt like I could finally breathe again after months of looking over my shoulder. Noah's health has improved significantly with the decreased stress. His asthma attacks are much less frequent, and he's sleeping through the night again. Praise everything holy. He's been seeing a play therapist who specializes in helping young children process grief and anxiety. The transformation has been amazing. He's back to being my silly, curious little boy instead of the scared, clingy child he'd become. We moved out of my grandma's house last month and into a small rental on the other side of town. The security system I installed was worth every penny. My workplace approved permanent remote status for me, which has been incredible for our stability. Ethan's parents have become wonderful allies through all this. They visit Noah twice a month and are slowly building a meaningful relationship with him. Lauren brought photo albums from when Ethan was little, and Noah loves seeing pictures of when Daddy was small like me. It's bittersweet, but healing. Everything was going well until last Wednesday when Lauren called me, sounding worried. She'd been getting concerning messages from mutual friends who still kept in touch with Jenna. Apparently, Jenna had been making statements about being reunited with her son soon, and families belonging together. Red flags. Lauren warned me to be extra vigilant, which honestly increased my anxiety again. I immediately called my lawyer and the police to report these threats. They took it seriously, especially given the restraining order, but said they couldn't do anything until she actually violated it. They advised me to stay alert and document everything. Friday was Noah's preschool fall festival, an outdoor event where parents could come watch the kids play games, make crafts, and have a little Halloween-themed fun. The school had been amazing about the whole situation, keeping Jenna's photo at the front desk and requiring ID for all visitors. I felt relatively safe there, naive of me in retrospect. I was watching Noah play a beanbag toss game when I noticed one of the parent volunteers staring at him a bit too intently. Something about her seemed vaguely familiar, despite never having seen her before. She was wearing glasses and had different colored hair, but something about her posture and the way she kept looking at Noah raised my concern. As I moved closer to Noah, it hit me. The volunteer was Jenna's sister wearing a wig. She must have used a fake name to sign up for the event. I became very scared as I scanned the area, and that's when I spotted Jenna herself lurking at the edge of the playground, carrying a small backpack and making eye contact with her sister while keeping her gaze fixed on Noah. I rushed to Noah's side, grabbed his hand, and quickly alerted his teacher about what was happening. The teacher immediately radioed the school office, and they activated their emergency protocol. Thank God they had one. The principal announced over the PA system that teachers should bring their students inside for special indoor activities, their code for a soft lockdown. Jenna's sister tried creating a distraction, loudly claiming there was some misunderstanding while blocking the path between me and the school building. Meanwhile, Jenna started walking directly toward Noah, calling out that she was his other mommy and had presents for him. Noah clutched my leg, recognizing her as the crying lady from before. School security intercepted Jenna, but she became hysterical. She reached into her backpack and pulled out a stuffed dinosaur identical to Noah's favorite one, screaming that she knows him better than anyone and that Ethan wanted them to be a family. Noah started wheezing in fear, his asthma kicking in, which had me simultaneously trying to calm him down and get his inhaler from my bag. He needs me. Look at him. She doesn't know how to take care of him, Jenna screamed, making a desperate lunge toward us as the security guard held her back. The police arrived within minutes. The school had called 911 immediately. They detained both Jenna and her sister while Noah and I waited inside the nurse's office. He was terrified and confused, asking why the lady wanted to take him away. When officers searched Jenna's backpack, they found toys, snacks specifically for Noah's allergies, a change of clothes in his size, and most disturbingly, a hand-drawn family portrait of Jenna, Ethan, and Noah, with me literally crossed out of the picture. There was also a detailed map marking Noah's daily schedule and routines, including our new address. Still don't know how she found it. Jenna was arrested on the spot for violating the restraining order, attempted child abduction, criminal stalking, and trespassing on school property. Her sister was charged with aiding and abetting. The DA is taking this extremely seriously, thankfully, and pushing for maximum penalties. The aftermath has been exhausting but validating. Several mutual friends who had previously sympathized with Jenna reached out to apologize, admitting they had no idea how severe her obsession had become. One friend confessed Jenna had been collecting Noah's likes and dislikes in a journal for months, even before Ethan died. We're now staying at an Airbnb while I look for a new place to live, again. My lawyer is working on getting a permanent address restriction, so our new location can't be disclosed to Jenna or her family even after she's eventually released. I've also started the process of legally changing Noah's last name to mine, something I should have done years ago. My boss approved a transfer to our company's office in another state, so Noah and I will be moving next month. It feels like running away, but the fresh start is exactly what we need. Lauren and her husband have already planned their first visit to us for Christmas. Noah's therapist is helping him process everything through play and art. Yesterday, he drew a picture of just him and me in front of a house with a big fence around it. When I asked about the fence, he said, "It's to keep the crying lady out so she can't make mommy sad anymore." I may have sobbed for an hour after he went to bed. Edit. For those asking about Jenna's mental health, her sister revealed during questioning that Jenna had stopped taking her medication months ago. Apparently, she has a history of obsessive behavior that had been controlled with treatment. Not that it excuses anything she did, but it explains some of the escalation. Edit 2. Noah had his 5th birthday last week, his first without any drama or fear. We celebrated with a small dinosaur-themed party at a local indoor playground. He smiled more than I've seen in months, and not a single asthma attack. The little victories feel enormous right now. I still have moments of panic and look over my shoulder constantly, but knowing Jenna is facing serious legal consequences has given me some peace. This whole experience taught me to trust my instincts and never downplay concerning behavior, no matter how much others try to normalize it. This community gave me courage when I doubted myself and wondered if I was overreacting to Jenna's grief. I'll be forever grateful for the strangers who believed me when even friends didn't.